Welcome to part 3 of Final Fantasy XIV guide video. How are you enjoying Final Fantasy XIV so far? Leave it in the comments. Now that you have reached level 15, and I mean on your main scenario quest, MSQ in short, which probably is going to be one of these three: the Gridanian Envoy, the Laminzan Envoy, or the Ul'dan Envoy. Depending on which city you started your game, you will get one of them. And from here, your quest will be the same, and it won't matter which city you started your journey from. Before we proceed further, I highly suggest finish all your available class quests. After the previous mentioned MSQ, very next quest, called Call of the Sea, will send you to your first duty. Before we get into duties, let's get some preparation done. Talk to this Smith NPC. He will introduce you through the novice training. Now, this is optional, but you will have to do it at some points, so might as well. And if this is your first time playing a game like this, then I highly recommend to do this. Doing this exercise will teach you the basics of combat in a party. You will also get level 15 gear, which both looks good and will last until level 20. Now that you are ready, continue with your MSQ and you will eventually be in front of your first dungeon. The game will introduce you to Duty Finder and stuff, but I'm here to talk about all that so you can read them on your own game. Let's start, shall we? So, Duty Finder. The first tab you will have access to is the second tab, which is the list of dungeons that you have unlocked. Yes, you will have to unlock all the dungeons one by one through quest. Some are locked behind those special blue quests I talked about in my previous video. The second tab, which you won't have access to, are the dungeons that belongs to the latest expansions. We are going to ignore the fourth tab from the left, named Guild Haste. These are just to help you get used to your class and regular duties, but since I'm here to talk about them, they are really not that important. Now, the fifth and sixth tab are for trials. Trials are single boss fight instances that you will get in, the first 4 being 4-man trials, and from 5th and onwards it will be 8-man trials. Again, like Dungeon tab, the 6th tab belongs to the latest expansion trials only. The 7th and 8th tab are for raids. What are raids? It's basically a 24-man dungeon with very strong and hard bosses to fight with. There will be 3 parties, each having 8 party members, but you won't get to unlock them anytime soon. Your first raid will be after you finish your MSQ of the Realm Reborn and during the post Realm Reborn MSQ. 9th tab is for PvP. You will unlock PvP after unlocking your Grand Company at level 20 MSQ, and you can queue up for quick matches using this tab. The last tab belongs to Gold Saucer. I will be going super detailed about Gold Saucer in another video, so I won't be talking about it in this video, but trust me, it's not that important even for Gold Saucer. Now, you might have noticed I skipped the very first tab. Well, there's a reason for it. You won't have anything on that tab until you unlock your first 3 duty, which will be really easy cause you won't get your first 3 dungeon right after the other. But here's the rundown. Once you unlock a sizable amount of dungeons, you will unlock your duty roulettes. These are your dailies among other things. As you can see on my screen, there's lots of them. First, you will unlock leveling, which will randomly give you any duty from level 16 dungeon to level 89 dungeon that you have unlocked. This will be the first roulette you will unlock. They will give you a huge amount of XP for the first time you do them on that day. After that, if you spam them, you will get the standard XP from the specific duty. And if you're playing as a tank and healer, trust me, spamming this leveling duty roulette is going to be worth it for the seals. I will talk about Grand Companies and seals in another video. Just know you can use them to buy stuff from Grand Companies. Trial Roulette. Trial Roulette will give you a random trial from the ones you have unlocked, and so on and so on. You will slowly unlock all of them, so just keep doing your MSQ. To join a duty, simply select the duty, then click the Join button bottom right. It will put you in a queue for that duty. DPS queues are usually longer than tanks and healers, so maybe do something else while you're waiting. But the first few duty you can do with NPC. To do that, simply run to the instance, right click, and it will give you the option to join the duty with NPCs. Now let's talk about the roles you will be fulfilling in your duties. If you remember, I mentioned the Holy Trinity in my first guide video. The Holy Trinities are tank, heal, and DPS, and you will be fulfilling one of these roles depending on your class. If you want to know which starting class fills which role, I suggest go watch my part 1 guide video. Alright, so let's talk about which role does what. Starting with tanks. Tanks' responsibility is to protect everyone by taking all the incoming damage and keeping the aggro of the mobs on themselves. They should always be running ahead of the party, so it will be easier for them to get aggro sooner and won't let the mobs hit other party members. But on a personal note, if you are a tank and someone else still gets ahead and pulls aggro, don't be a crybaby and stop fighting. There's no way in this game to pull more mobs than your team can possibly handle in a duty. But how much your team can handle is mostly depend on the healer. So unless your healer is struggling, keep going and no need to be rude to someone. Healer, probably the most important role, because even without the tank, on small pulls, it is possible to keep moving forward if the healer is good. But it's almost impossible to do even small pulls in some cases without a healer. Unless you're a warrior and you're in above level 80 dungeon, but let's ignore that for now. So, healers' job is to keep them alive. If the tank is doing their job properly, they will mostly be focusing on keeping them alive, but there are times when the whole team will take damage and it will be on the healer to shield or heal the team. And healers, please use your regen spells, they are your bread and butter. I swear I will make a video on this, but if you are going for a healer, read all your spells and see which ones have regens and spam them as much as possible. Last but not least, DPS. DPS's responsibility is to do as much damage as possible as quickly as possible, while tanks and healers are doing their job while staying clear of the incoming damage. Try not to run ahead of the tank if possible, especially if the tank or healer is new. Just because I said earlier there is no way to pull more than what you can handle in game, there's also a mental preparation which you have to understand. Just because they can do it doesn't necessarily mean they can do it. You know what I'm trying to say. But a bit of tip, if you are long range DPS, try to stay as close as possible to the healer, as most healers have certain range of their AoE spells they can use on a long cooldown. So you probably don't want them to miss and waste time to cast a single target spells on you, as it will mess up their rotation. Now, an overall tip during mob pulls. If there's 3 or more enemies, use your AoE spells if you have them. If there's only 2 or some cases 3, use single target and try to target the same mobs. It will give you the fastest kills on the mobs. With that, I believe you should be fine with duties. In the next part, we will be talking about Grand Company, Chocobo Companion, and Soul Crystals. So until then, take care, stay safe, and keep having fun.